So we move from there to CBN's new guidelines for Bureau de Change operators in Nigeria. So Malik, just give us like the dumbed down version of what those guidelines are before we start talking about their implications.
Yeah, absolutely. So, CBN is aiming to um, sort of revise the guideline for licensing and operations of BDCs in Nigeria, right? Basically, it's aimed to sanitize the industry to a large extent, right? Now mandating BDCs to be very well capitalized, probably using that to eliminate some street tradings, right? And I mean, the key points in the guideline is the very key one is first the capital requirement, right? And then the tiering of BDCs. So now you have like two tiers of BDCs, tier one and tier two. Tier one can operate across Nigeria, and the capital requirement for that is essentially 2 billion, which is a lot compared to what it was before. Generally, I think it was just 35 million. So increasing it from 35 million to 2 billion is quite significant, right? And then there's the tier two one that can operate within a state with 3 branches, and that's essentially 500 million. Even tier two is more than how many percent now? Right? The previous one, right? And it's very, very baffling for like a lot of people in the ecosystem. And the other major I highlight is the digitization of the BDCs. Now, like I mentioned earlier, one of the problems is like CBN feels they don't have visibility into what is happening, like the trades, like everything. So digitization, they believe, would help with that, give a level of visibility into how trades are being executed by BDCs, right? So they can essentially track every kobo that they give out, just like with banks, right? When banks keep money in vaults and like take money from the CBN, they're essentially able to track how much is in the vaults, do like physical audits and like do a whole lot of that. So it's a similar scrutiny that they're now extending to BDCs, mandating them to connect to CBN's reporting platforms, mandating them to carry out KYC by connecting directly to various databases for verification. So they're connecting to NIMC's database, connecting to FRS for taxes as well. And I mean, we feel that those changes would really, really help sanitize and probably create opportunities for some fintechs as well. Now, another bit is the card issuing one, which is like quite interesting, right? So just like the way banks would do with BTAs and PTAs when they don't want to give you cash, I think GT Bank is notorious for that. If you go
Mm-hmm.
there asking for like BTA or PTA, they would usually put the money in a card and then give you that card for your travel. Again, back to the
Mm.
whole essence of like being able to track and have visibility. They've also reduced the amount that you can actually get from a BDC to $500, right? Anything above $500 has to be in an account or in a card, right? So for foreigners, if you're coming to Nigeria, you
Mhm.
don't have a local bank account, you'll be issued a card. You can use that Naira card to do your transactions locally. And whatever is left in the card, you can convert back to USD when you're traveling. I mean, it's expected as a foreigner, you're not even bringing anything more than $10,000 into the country in cash. So, but if you bring $10,000 and you happen to want to change $10,000, that has to be reported. Source of funds has to be reported as well, to cater to issues around money laundering. Another very interesting part about like the new regime is the fact that like they've now halted shareholders from holding more than one license. Like it used to be in the past where you apply for multiple licenses so that you can get like more allocation, right? That
Mm.
will no longer be possible. But it's also begs to, I mean, like one question that rings in my head is whether CBN, I mean, now they've allowed BDCs to have access to their weekly $20,000 dollars now, right? But I can't imagine having capital of about 2 million dollars thereabout, or let's just say like 2 billion naira. And then you will be giving me $20,000 to do business every week. I mean, when am I going to be able to like make
Recuperate
money.
your
I mean, yeah,
investment.
find that like the $2 billion is not like going to be locked up somewhere. Of course, it's going to be locked for the duration of like the application, but it's going to be given to you to carry on your business subsequently. But I mean, what can like 20,000, like why would I want to lock up $2 billion applying for a license for about 6 months thereabout? And then when the thing comes out, I cannot do more than like 20,000. I mean, so I'm hoping that that limit would get increased probably by the time the draft law gets issued finally. But that's like one area that would definitely require some clarification. Then, of course, like banks and other financial institutions, telcos, a couple of existing institutions that might be able to commingle funds are no longer allowed to hold BDC licenses, which is also very helpful. Um, so what it means or what the implication of this is that if you're a PSSP, and you want to start like doing like international trade or a fintech, you want to start doing like exchange, that may not work for you, right? It has to be like by a totally different entity, and that's like one big elephant in the room for a lot of the fintechs. But it's like other ways they can, of course, play, right? Now there's like other opportunities that the law has also opened, which we might discuss subsequently, right? And then, of course,
Thank you.
there's a limit to what they can sell now, right? So PTA is now like to individuals is 4,000, right? And then to businesses like 5,000 within any 6-month period. So as an individual, you're only entitled to 4,000 within 6 months, right? Which is another limitation. But yeah.
Yes, thank you for that elaborate explanation. And at different times, you've mentioned fintechs, and I said Chief Godwin did an article from based on the guidelines. Is we are projecting that many of these businesses would have no choice but to go digital because of the different connections they have to bring on if they are going to survive with these new guidelines. So just give us a rundown of what that would mean.
Okay. So first, we have about 6,000 BDCs in the country, and the CBN is saying if you're going to do business with us, you have to hook up to certain systems. So NIBS, for example, I'm guessing that's to track every transaction that happens. They would also have to hook up to FIRS, probably for reporting revenue. I don't know if that word hook up is.
I was going to, but go on.
But I mean,
Works.
sorry,
Yes, plug in.
anything. Yeah, they have to plug into FIRS. They have to plug into. I think there's one more I can't remember, but they have to plug into at least 3 different digital systems. I think and the NIN verification portal
NIMSI.
through. Yeah, I think that will happen through CBN. I'm not very sure, but they have to do all of that. And for people whose the bulk of their operations are manual, that's a lot to ask for right now. First of all, you need to hire people to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, yes, you need to hire people to do this. That's extra money for them.
Yeah.
Already, there's the challenge of the new capital requirements, which is more than the new capital requirements is about 20 times what it used to be. It went from 35 million to 2 billion. So that's like a more than 20x increase if my math is correct. So first they have to battle that, and then they now have to figure out how to hire and pay the right technical talent. So that's the first problem. And now that I think about it, I just wonder how bad BDC operations would get over the next couple of months once that guideline is passed. Yes, the CBN says they're currently in, it's just a guideline. The idea is that they release it, they get feedback from the public, and then they make amendments where necessary. Mm-hmm. And stakeholders are also saying, okay, we are going to look at it. First of all, they are complaining about the capital requirements, which is kind of necessary, or not, which is expected. So they are complaining about that. But they are also saying, okay, we've heard you. We are going to do some. I don't know if they've had their meetings, but they were supposed to have zonal meetings this week or so, and then they would report their findings. But yeah, those are some of the problems they are going to face. Having to digitize their operations, on one hand, is good. On the other hand, it becomes really problematic. So why do I think it's good? You guys, your CBN has been pushing for a. Sorry, I keep on disavowing Nigeria, but Yes, your CBN has been pushing for digitization of our financial services for a very long time. This is one more way to do that, because if you go around certain parts of the country, you'll be besieged by these humans who are asking you to come trade dollar.
You got
That's
it.
one. So there's more visibility.
Okay.
Probably the CBN can now know if BDCs are their problem or not.
It's
Well,
a sprint.
exactly. No, this is now more than a sprint, but yeah, for any avoidance of doubt, they would know whether their problem is BDCs or not. It's also, why do I now think it's going to be a problem? First is, if you've never done anything in technology in your life, there's like an adaptation period.
Yeah.
And right now, the rules are still very sketchy about the people who are not BDCs who can apply for this license. So first of all, banks cannot, both commercial banks and non-interest deposit banks can't get into this business. So banks are ruled out. Can fintechs do that? It's unclear. I've seen some people saying fintechs
Collaborate,
should get in, but the guidelines don't even make that very clear, because one, most fintechs are not commercial. In fact, I don't know any fintech that is a commercial bank. Malik, you can correct me if I'm missing anybody. There's almost no one, even
Would
Kuda.
rather be neobanks.
Yeah,
not
Kuda is probably a
microfinance.
microfinance bank, if I'm not mistaken. So there's almost no fintech that is a clear commercial bank.
Yeah.
That's one problem. So which fintech takes advantage of that? Now, you're supposed to issue cards in conjunction with commercial banks. If you're not a commercial bank, you cannot do that. So is there really a space for fintechs to play right now? I think that's the question that we should ask Malik. Is there really any opportunity for fintechs right now?
Yes, there are a couple actually. So,
Okay.
number one, if you look at the integrations that they're asking the BDCs to do, right? I mean, whilst the law is like integrate to this, it didn't say you must integrate directly, right? And there's like fintech that are built as part of their solution, verification solutions that have integrated with with NIBS, right, for BVN verification. They've integrated with NIMC for ID verification. They've also integrated like several solutions. For example, even StartButton has integrations with FRS, right? For example, for like tax computation, right? So a fintech like StartButton, for example, to start with, will definitely be able to, BDCs would definitely be able to leverage our APIs for like tax verification and computation, right? Which would be very, very helpful for their business. So that's like one opportunity, one clear opportunity. Right? On the PSSP side, right, now that the law is saying that all transactions should happen electronically, it's good for them because now they can power transfers, right, into like transfers to load the cards, transfers to unload the cards. Mobile money operators may be able to provide wallet services backing those cards, right? Ultimately, right? And then on the card issuance bit as well, right? The law is that only deposit-taking financial institutions will be able to issue cards. However, I mean, pretty much anybody can leverage their solutions to brand the card, right? And build technology on top of like existing card solutions, right? And in the industry, there's something we call BIN sponsorship, right? So you can work with a bank to get a BIN sponsorship relationship in place, right, to be able to issue cards even without being a bank, right? The only thing is that like the card brand has to be there and the bank has to be there as the sponsor, right, ultimately. So that can actually happen. And we have a number of fintech currently doing that today, right? I mean, with card issuing solutions. And definitely those fintechs will be able to, of course, like benefit from this new regime. So on that side as well, you see like fintechs also playing, right? The only bit that I'm not sure of now is the cross-border leg of it, right? So I came thinking about if I'm a foreigner, I come into Nigeria, I didn't come with cash, but I want to bring in money to Nigeria and then exchange with a BDC. Does it mean I have to do that only through IMTOs? And I cannot just bring the money in USD, right? And then exchange with a BDC, get a card and use and go. It's left for us to see how that would play out. But I think fintechs might be able to play in that area as well. But I'm not particularly sure how that would work just yet. But that's like another very important area that I see fintechs playing. So like it's the opportunities are there, to be honest. And then there's still the opportunity of actually just building the whole thing and serving as a technical partner for the BDC. So we have some fintechs that they are fintechs, but they're more of like software providers ultimately.
Yeah.
So it's like core banking apps, right? For MFBs and banks, right? And they've built probably like apps to manage financial services, right? They've built fintech as a service, right? Which I mean, they can just like these BDCs can plug and play ultimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like multi layers, like Anchor doing like awesome stuff in the BaaS space as well, as like fintech as a service space. There's Block. There's like a number of solutions already that the BDCs can just like plug into and get started, to be fair. So let's see how this plays out, right? It's just left for people to see the opportunities, but yes, the opportunities are actually there, right? There will be a lot of partnerships as well, right? So you bring license, I'll bring technology, and let's work together. That would also happen.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Malik. So it's not all gloom. So I think while these conversations are still going on with CBN, I think this would be a good time for the well-established BDC operators to start having conversations with fintech, right? So we understand that more BDC operators will collude to get the license because of how expensive it is. So when they come together, they should be having the conversations already about these people that already have the understanding and the infrastructure to help them instead of trying to start from the scratch. Especially
the
with
fintechs
coming
can
to
actually make the move since there's a whole lot for them to gain here. So, I mean, if you're a fintech, you should probably be making any move right now.
So yeah, so while the conversation is still going on with the bank, with CBN, this fintech should also be having conversations about these partnerships already, approaching each other. And I think, yes, as Malik mentioned, there are opportunities here and it is left to the ecosystem to tap into it. And finally, let's just move on to...
Well, I have a question again, right? So now
Okay.
with
Can you do that we
Markdown
answer it though?
no. It's just like a general question. But with
Okay.
my problem is now that like the pricing is also determined, right? So you as BDC, when you get your allocation, you can only mark up or mark down with 1% and nothing more, right? Whilst 1% looks like a lot, ultimately that's if you're doing like a lot of
by the
transactions.
time it's shared.
Yeah, by the time it's split between like all of these things like AWS costs and a number of things, man, I feel like yeah, it would be a very hard sell. But let's see how it works ultimately. But I just thought
Yes.
to
I
Yes.
think we should share that with the BDC guys so that they will consider that in their negotiations with the CBN.
I think they should.
Yes. Because eventually you have to look at the cost too. Because if they say they want to start building their infrastructure from scratch,
Yeah, that's extra cost.
extra
and
cost
then,
on the BDCs.
Yeah.
Say fintech wants to tap into this new regime too. They might want to have to, even if they can't get the license, they will look for a way to do merging or acquisition or anything. So I think it's just to look at the cost. I'm not in the space, but these are the things that should come up during the conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping like this sounds like good news. Like there will be a time where these foot soldiers will come together with the
Online soldiers.
keyboard warriors and online warriors, and I didn't see that coming. But
I
yes,
hope
we
they
are looking
don't fight.
forward to that time. That they will fight. No, there's not even they will not fight.
CBN
But
will separate the
eventually,
fight.
okay. So maybe in another 3 months. Well, with the speed with which CBN implement this, except is to do crackdown. They don't usually put,
I mean, these ones are also moving fast. They plan to have a meeting this week.
Okay.
So if the meeting is done, guessing it's now a meeting with the CBN. So Yeah, if it
In a few
it probably
months.
shouldn't take a lot of time.
Okay, in a few months.
To listen to the full episode of this podcast, visit podcast.techpoint.africa or search for TechPoint Africa podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.